Let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked at your day and thought, I was busy all day, but what did I actually get done? Or maybe you said, I know exactly what I should be doing, but somehow I still didn't do it or get it done. You start, you stop, you get motivated, you get some momentum, you get going, and then you lose it. A month goes by, maybe 6 months, maybe even a year or more for some of us. And you're still trying to solve that same problem. The same things keep coming up. Does that sound familiar? Well, if it does, then you found the right video. I created a 5-day YouTube series designed to help you create better results over the next 30 days. I call it 30 Days to Results. Over the next 5 days, we're going to explore why you do, what may be getting in your way, and how to create more clarity and structure in your life, and ultimately, how to create better results. Who's down for better results? Each day builds on the day before it, and each day you'll have a worksheet. It'll be pinned in the comments to help you apply what you're learning. My name is Coach Christine Randall, and I will be your coach. For more than 20 years, I've helped people become more focused, more consistent, and more intentional in how they live and work and how they get what they want. And today we're starting with one of the most powerful forces that are driving your behavior. This is what I have figured out working with my clients, and that is your identity. When I say the word identity, what comes to mind? Most people, if I say, what's your identity? Most people think about their job, if they're a parent, if they're a spouse, husband, wife, mother, father, maybe what they do for a living, or maybe where they were raised. That becomes a big identity factor for people. But that's not the identity that I'm talking about for this video. The identity I'm talking about is the story you tell yourself about who you are. Maybe you tell yourself, I'm a very organized person. I hate clutter. Or maybe you say, I'm always late. Don't expect me to be on time. Or maybe you say, I'm very intentional. I don't say yes to everything. Some people may say, I'm bad with money. I'm a procrastinator. I'm not a workout person. I've always been overweight. I'm healthy and fit. Whatever the story is, those identities often influence our behavior more than we realize. Think about that for a moment. The results you're getting today are being influenced by a story you may not even realize you're telling yourself. That's where the awareness comes in. The story becomes your identity, and that identity influences your behavior and ultimately your results. So I'm going to give you 3 examples that will illustrate exactly what I mean in case some of this is not really making sense. The first one is really a personal story, and it's about me. And for years, my family called me Clumsy Christine. I remember exactly how it started. I was sitting at a family dinner when I was in elementary school, and I knocked over a glass of water, and it got all over the table, got in the plates of the food. Everybody laughed. My grandfather yelled. At the next family gathering, I can remember being nervous. It happened again, sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And after only a couple of times, all of a sudden, that became my nickname, Clumsy or Klutzy Christine. And nicknames when you're young can turn into labels. And labels can become how we see ourselves or part of our identity. Clumsy Christine. I remember referring to myself that way. It was interesting because I accepted that label at a very young age, and I actually became self-fulfilling prophecy and looking for the evidence that it was true. Because I believed it, I kept reinforcing it. Fast forward to years later, I was in my 20s. I was bartending and winning dance competitions. I'm a very good dancer. And a friend looked at me and said, "Why do you call yourself clumsy?" What? You're a bartender. You're a dancer. Clumsy people usually don't do those things really well. Mic drop. And you're good at both. That was a mirror up for me, I tell you that. That conversation made me question a story, a narration, a label, an identity that had been given to me before I was old enough to really decide whether it was true. I just accepted it as truth, and that's who I thought I was. So let me ask you, what label are you still carrying? What story are you telling yourself? I want that to land with you for a minute. Now let's look at a second example. Most people know who Michael Jordan is. Many people consider him, myself included, the greatest basketball player of all time. GOAT. 6 championships, 6 final MVP awards, I think 31 points in a game, 10 scoring titles. People, when they think about him, they focus on the talent. They focus on all of that stuff, right? Of course, why wouldn't you? But what fascinates me about Mr. Michael Jordan is his identity. He decided that no one would outwork him before all those championships. That wasn't a goal. That became and was who he was. He didn't wake up every morning debating whether he should practice. He had already decided who he was going to be. There was no internal dialogue. His identity drove this behavior. He saw himself as the person who would win and outwork them all. And he did. And his behavior created the results. His results. Numbers don't lie. And he certainly lived up to his own expectations and beyond. So let me ask you, what do you see yourself as? Now, let me give you one final example, and this is from my coaching practice. I've worked with many different types of clients. A lot of times I work with clients that say, I'm not able to focus. So I start to ask a series of questions. Can you focus for 2 hours? If somebody says they can't focus, they will almost always answer that with a no. Okay, can you focus for an hour? I mean, real focus, nothing else, just that one thing. And they say, I struggle, but probably not. And then I'll say, can you focus for 30 minutes? And they say, sometimes I can focus for 30 minutes, but not always. And then I'll say, can you focus for 15 minutes? I'm kind of reducing it to ridiculous. And they're like, yes, I can. I'm like, all right. So what did we discover in this little exercise? That you can focus, and with a little help and strategies, you can focus for the 15 minutes, but I bet we can increase that. But the reality is, when you say that I can't focus, maybe it's I can't focus for long periods of time, and we can work on that, but you can focus. The identity had become stronger than the evidence. They just expected that they couldn't focus. So like Jordan, they lived up to their label. Only in this case, it was not to their benefit. So what do all of these 3 examples have in common? It's a story that becomes an identity that influenced behavior. Now, as you're thinking of yourself in this story, I want you to hear this. This is my first tip and strategy to help you with this. I want you to think about noise-canceling headphones. In noise-canceling headphones, you decide what gets in and what stays out, how much noise you want to keep out. Identity can work the same way. If you've already decided you're not disciplined, not focused, not organized, not good with money, or not capable, you start filtering that information so your brain looks for reasons to live up to that label. But we're going to put the canceling headphones on because we want to ignore that and only start feeding our brain for the reasons why we actually can focus. We can focus for 15 minutes. We can focus for 20 minutes. We use the noise canceling headphones to help us build the new identity. It's the new armor. And that new armor will protect us. We don't want our identity to trap us. We want it to propel us. So as you go about your day, as you begin this transformation and awareness of the parts of your identity that help you or getting in your way, I want you to think about those noise-canceling headphones and decide what you want to listen to, decide what gets in, and decide what gets out. Decide what you need to cancel. During this program, you will get many tips and strategies, and if you use only one, if you only use this, you will see a difference. Here's something else I want to share. I love quotes by impactful people. James Clear is the author of Atomic Habits, and he has a lot of good quotes, but this one is really good. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. I love this one because action matters and action is king, that I say. Every workout, every promise kept, every broken promise, every difficult conversation, every action is a vote. So let me ask you a few questions. What are you voting for right now? If someone watched your day on a movie screen, they were up there watching you, would they believe you are the person you say you are? That's a tough one. Take some time with that one. What story have you been telling yourself? And perhaps the most important question of all, if nothing changes, who are you becoming? I've given you a lot to think about today, and I hope I've challenged you to think a little differently about yourself and the results you're getting in your life. This is just the beginning. We've got a bunch of other good stuff out there. The results you're getting today are being influenced by a story you may not even realize you're telling yourself. I really believe that if we can get that awareness and that evidence, we can make the changes that we want to change. If the story becomes your identity and you do not like the results, you've got to change the story. Your identity influences your thoughts, your actions, your habits, and then ultimately the results, the way you're living your life. The examples I shared today, from Clumsy Christine to the GOAT, Mr. Michael Jordan, and to my client, and I've had clients with an S who believe that they couldn't focus, but we turned that around, are all examples of how identity does shape behavior. So now it's your turn. Spend some time with today's worksheet. They're very important questions. Take the time, write it down. Think about the story you've been telling yourself. Think about the identity you're reinforcing every day. Some of it's great. We don't want to get rid of all of it. I'm guessing there's some things in there that are really good. And think about the person you're becoming through your actions. Now, tomorrow, we're going to move from awareness to clarity, and that'll be fun. And every day, you're going to have a little bit of homework. It'll be pinned in the comments. You got to do the homework. Once you understand what stories you're telling yourself, the next question becomes, what do I actually want? Why does it matter? That's where we're going with this. So it'll be a lot of fun. I would love to read any comments and some of your answers. I'll answer your questions if you have any. I'd love to read your answers from the worksheet or the questions I put in this video. I'll read each one and I will respond. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. The second video, day 2, will be dropped at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you for trusting me with your time. Like, subscribe, share, comment. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Do the homework.